Welcome to Cambodia Business Week. Welcome back on this beautiful Saturday morning. We're delighted this morning to have a new company in the market that just recently got their license. I think I'm familiar with this company. It's called Cambodian Investment Management Insurance Agent. Welcome to Daniel.
Thank you very much.
Now I'm going to say your name as I always do. Daniel Santantoniou.
No. It's Daniel Santantoniou.
All right, so we know each other for 3 years and still my poor pronunciation. But welcome to the show, Daniel. And congratulations on the license.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Cambodian Investment Management Insurance Agent. Could you give us an idea of where does it sort of fit in? It's a pretty long name, right?
Correct. So, as you just mentioned, we just received our corporate agency license beginning of May 2017.
And that allows you to do what?
So, a corporate agency license allows you to represent one general insurance company, one life insurance company, and one micro insurance company.
Okay. So you're effectively an agent for these companies.
Correct.
Now, why the insurance business? Why is the insurance business attractive for a company such as yourselves?
Well, if you look at the market statistics from the Insurance Association of Cambodia, which came out beginning of the year, you will see that the insurance sector has been growing at a staggering rate of 25% per year over the last 5 years. So that's a pretty amazing number and a very exciting sector to be in, I think.
Okay, so your company is recent in the market then. There's a lot of, I guess, different types of players in the insurance space. There's insurance companies, there's insurance brokers, there's insurance agents. So how does this all fit in together?
Correct. So we were debating whether we should be an agent, whether we should be a broker. We looked a little bit at the statistics. You can see that there's one general insurance company really dominating the market with almost 50% of market shares. So we decided to go on and represent that company, and we didn't think it's necessary to have all the other ones working with us as well. So yeah, we decided to go with the market leader.
Okay. And what's the difference between a broker and an agent?
So the difference is that as an agent, as I mentioned, we can represent only one insurance company, one life, one general, and one micro, where a broker can represent all the market basically. One pretty important difference is that when you go through an agent like us, you really establish a very close relationship with the insurer that you don't necessarily have when going through a broker. When you go through a broker, you talk only to the broker basically, and he will take care of all the relation with the insurers, where we can establish a much more close relationship with the insurance company. So it's really a three companies relation that you don't necessarily have going through a broker.
Okay, so I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about you a bit. So where are you originally from?
So I was born in Italy, in Rome.
That's the difficult name.
Yes, so my mother is Swiss and my father is Greek, so that's where my family name comes from. So I spent the first 5 years of my life in Italy. I don't have much memories about that, and then we moved to Switzerland. So that's where I grew up. I did my studies there. Completed a master's degree in business administration at the State University of Geneva, which is ranked in the top 30 best business schools in Europe. So once I graduated with such a diploma in Geneva, you have 90% of chances to end up in a private bank.
And you did.
So this is what I did. Yes, correct. Between two jobs in Switzerland, I took a 6-month sabbatical, and I decided to go visit a friend of mine who was relocated in Bangkok, in Thailand. I never traveled before outside of Europe, so that was pretty exciting for me. So I decided to go join him there and then just travel all around the region. So during this 6 months, I really discovered there's many other things in life than when I was used to in Switzerland. Different cultures, different peoples, different climates. And I got very excited about that. So when I got back home after my 6-month trip, I had only one thing in mind, is to go back to that region for professional reasons this time.
And you came to Cambodia when?
So I came to Cambodia pretty much exactly 3 years ago.
And you spent some time setting up this business.
Correct.
Right. It's not easy getting a license, right?
It takes some time. you need to pull the strings.
Yeah, and this is a market, I guess, the insurance market here, which is still really much in its infancy stage. I guess it's fair to say, because I think the market in the past has been pretty much. Although we have agents and brokers now, that it's a more formal market. I remember when I came here, I guess 9 years ago, there was 2 agents in the market, I think one broker. No, 2 agents. It was 2 agents at the time, and the rest of the market was being brokered or agented by individuals or companies that were really not licensed.
Correct.
Right. So. Those 2 guys, you got to give them credit. Those 2 companies, they from the beginning, they got their licensing, and they operated under that regulatory structure where most of the market was not. And now it's shifting, I think, the other direction, where it's being very much on the regulated side and less toleration for those that aren't. So how's that? Is that obviously it's a good thing because. You have to go through a licensing process, and you have to prove that you're worthy of that license and have professional people behind it. But how have you seen that shift over the time that you've been here? And I think when you came, it was also primarily unregulated activity as well.
They got very well organized, and they started to implement new rules, new regulations. In a goal to really secure make all the investors who invest in Cambodia feel more secure, being in a more regulated environment. So we really welcome those new regulations and.
I guess the enforcement. I mean
the enforcement, correct.
Right. So we've seen it in the tax department for sure, with the. Certainly the increase in registered taxpayers, that those black market taxpayers and the non-taxpayers in the past are coming into the system. So the General Department of Taxation's done a great job. And I think in the life, certainly the life and the general insurance sector, certainly the Ministry of Economy and Finance is doing a fantastic job of bringing in those that weren't regulated in the past, really getting licensed, which is great for the consumer. It's great for any buyer in insurance that they feel more comfortable dealing with a licensed agent. So what's the responsibility of being licensed versus unlicensed?
Comes with many costs, of course, many regulatory reporting that we have to submit every month, every quarter, every year. Our accounts need to be audited.
And a consumer, somebody buying insurance can feel like they're buying it from somebody who has a license and can complain.
Correct. You also need to hold proper qualifications to apply as an insurance agent or any insurance intermediary. So that really gives the confidence to the consumers that they're talking to real professionals.
All right. Let's talk about the insurance market. We talked about the players. I guess it was Forte, you said, had 50% and split up between 5 other.
There's 7 general insurance companies.
7 now?
7, yes.
There's a new one, right? There's
a new one came a couple of years ago. No, now there's actually 3 newcomers coming, so there's going to be 10 general insurance companies.
So market's getting crowded. It's going to be like the banking market here soon. All right, but Forte, you said, has 50%. They've been here
almost 50%. Yes.
Yeah, they've been here a long time. What type of products are available for insurance? What are the insurance products for both corporate and individuals?
If you compare the products available in Cambodia compared to other parts in the world, it's still very basic products with basic coverages, so pretty easy to understand and to implement. So for individuals, I would say the main product would be automobile insurance that everybody needs.
That's not compulsory though.
And unfortunately, it's still
for,
not
for private cars. It's not.
It's still not compulsory for private cars. For commercial vehicles, though, it's mandatory to all the minimum third-party liability insurance.
Sure.
A lot of companies are not aware of that regulation.
So commercial vehicles by law have to be at least have public liability insurance.
Correct.
Okay. Which is not a bad thing, but unfortunately, I guess for the private, it's not.
For the private cars, it's not yet mandatory. But if you look at all the neighboring countries, for example, it became mandatory in all these countries. So we can expect to see a similar move here in Cambodia in the near future.
And insurance is pretty cheap here, right? I mean,
it's extremely cheap. Yeah, if I compare to the premiums we pay in my country in Switzerland, it's about 10% of the price.
Yeah, so it actually doesn't cost much to insure your car. Now I think for listeners, insurance is pretty new. Some of the banking products, in fact, are new. So for the finance sector is new. What does car insurance give you? Why would I want to get car insurance?
So. Thinking more generally, not only about cars, but everyone's life is surrounded by risks, pretty important risks. For example, road traffic accidents, which is one of the greatest risks in Cambodia. Your house catching fire, having a catastrophic illness such as a cancer or a stroke. So all these risks that are surrounding you can be very costly if you have to pay for them by yourself. So when you buy insurance, you basically transfer those risks to the insurance company in exchange of a premium. And the insurance company, what they are doing is that they're taking all these risks, pulling them together. Which allows them to spread the risk over all their clients and therefore offer a very low premium compared to what you would have to pay to cover it yourself, actually.
It's just getting back on the cars. So I'm a young guy, not me, but I'd say I'm a young guy listening to this show and saying, why would I buy car insurance? Why would I buy it? I mean, what does it give me? So
there are various levels of coverage available for cars, but the basic cover is to cover your third-party liability. So that's all the damages that you can cause to third parties when you're driving in the street. For example, if you don't see someone crossing the road and you unfortunately you hit that person and that person has to go to hospital for pretty expensive operations, or if you damage someone else's car or any other property. So the insurance would cover these damages that you cause to third parties.
What about the car?
Then the car itself, we can see that there are more and more expensive cars on the streets of Phnom Penh and all over Cambodia. So these cars cost a lot of money, and and even more to repair actually. So you can add to your car insurance policy coverage for your own damage. So the insurance company would cover any damages that is caused to your own car by accidental means. So that's also very very useful.
And there's other types of basic consumer insurances, I guess, like medical, right? So this is becoming the high growth area, I guess, in Cambodia, right?
Correct. So medical insurance is very, very important. Most of the best hospitals and clinics here in Cambodia are private, so they charge pretty large amounts for sometimes simple things. For example, X-ray, for example, can cost up to $50. An MRI up to $500. So these costs can go high pretty fast. They also the hospitals and clinics in Cambodia are not as developed and as in the other countries. So in very serious cases, usually they won't necessarily have the adequate equipment or even the surgeons. So in these very serious cases, you would need to be evacuated to the next best medical facility. Most of the time from Cambodia, it's Thailand. Thailand have very good hospitals. One of them being the Burumgrad, which was ranked in the top 10 best hospitals of the world by a report from the Wall Street Journal in 2016. So,
okay. So it gives you, in case you can't get the care here that you need, you
correct.
can take...
So you need to be evacuated by helicopter, for example, in a medicalized jet, and that can cost anything between 10 to 20,000 US dollars. So if you...
But even if you wanted care, let's say in Thailand, you could fly yourself and...
You can fly yourself, of course. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So medical insurance, I think it's pretty reasonable here. And I guess the question people always ask about is this inpatient, outpatient. What does all that mean?
So inpatient means a coverage for hospitalizations. Usually that comes with the medical evacuation and repatriation as well. So when does a hospitalization start? It starts when you're being admitted to the hospital, which means you're being given a room, whether it is for half day, full day, or overnight. So a lot of people think that hospitalization means just stepping inside an hospital, and that's a hospitalization. But if you're not admitted to the hospital, that would not usually be considered as a hospitalization.
Now the plans in Cambodia for both inpatient, because inpatient used to be really expensive. Used to be crazy expensive if you it was just worth it to do it yourself, because it was, let's face it, unless you're hypochondriac and going to the doctor every week, these visits to doctors should be infrequent when you have something that goes wrong where you don't need hospitalization. But what I noticed in Cambodia is actually inpatient's quite affordable.
Inpatient?
Yeah. I mean, outpatient.
Outpatient, yes.
Yeah.
So the really important part to cover in everybody's life is the inpatient, because that can get
that's the cancer stuff and the big accidents.
Exactly, all the serious stuff that can get very expensive.
Dengue fever,
Correct.
Right.
Then you can always add outpatient benefits to your cover, which is going to cover general practitioners and specialist consultations, any diagnosis tests that they would prescribe you, a blood test, an X-ray, an MRI, the medicines as well. So to decide whether you need these benefits or not, you should look over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, calculate how much you spend outside the hospital on an annual average, and compare, is it worth paying the price to include these benefits, or is it worth covering it myself? So yeah, of course you can always find very cheap clinics, doctors, medicine here, but if you want to go for quality, you can still get a pretty expensive, for example, antibiotic treatment can cost up to between $50 to $100, depending on the case. If you have to do an MRI on an outpatient basis, it can cost $300-500. So.
And I guess also in Cambodia is this more that I live for today, and so when these medical emergencies happen, the question always would be for a Cambodian listening, why would I get medical insurance? I mean, why would I get medical insurance instead of just paying for it when it happens?
Well, as I mentioned, it's very important, I think, to cover the serious important cases, inpatients, evacuation, because otherwise, if you don't have insurance to cover that, you have to make sure that you have the money available to pay yourself for these costs.
There's these chronic conditions that you get, for instance, like if you have something where you have to be hospitalized for a long period of time, it could run into tens of thousands of dollars.
Correct. We've seen cases costing close to $500,000, $1 million sometimes. So
it's good to have.
Can get very costly.
Right. So if you don't have the money, it's going to be difficult.
So if you don't have the money, since it's a lot of private hospitals and clinics, so first thing they're going to ask you when you arrive there is, do you have insurance? If you don't have it, do you have a credit card? If you don't have, do you have cash? If you have none of those, they basically ask you to leave the hospital and
hopefully not
and go back home.
All right. What other types of
so yeah, if you don't want to have to cover these costs by yourself, put a burden on your family, borrow money to cover all these costs, you can transfer those risks to your insurance company for a pretty low price.
Okay. So we talked about medical. We talked about motor vehicle. What other types? I guess fire for homes, fires and other perils, right?
Correct.
What are these fires and other perils insurance?
So the basic fire insurance covers your property, whether it is a house, a condominium, a factory, any property basically cover in case of fire or lightning. Lightning as well.
Flooding.
And then you can add, there's a list of about 20 different perils that you can add. For example, flooding, water damage, impact damage, explosions, etc. To enhance your cover.
Okay.
So one thing about the fire and allied perils insurance is that the government stepped in July 2014 and actually fixed the price for this insurance. So you can go to any insurance companies here in the market, and they all have for an exact similar coverage. They all have to give you the same price.
Okay. So basically, for fire insurance, if my house burns down, the insurance covers to replace it.
Correct.
Okay.
To completely reconstruct it, and depending on what you insured within your policy, to buy new content, furnitures, fixtures, fittings.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yes, and fire insurance is extremely low price, so one must be reckless not to insure those risks.
Okay, so we talked about fire, we talked about medical, we talked about motor vehicle. What other insurance would this personal accident, I guess?
Yeah, so when it comes to medical, there's actually various levels of coverage that you can take. Personal accident, for example, would cover you only in case of accidents. That's something that most of the employers here in Cambodia are buying for their employees. Then on top of that coverage, you can add hospital and surgical insurance, which will be more locally based, covering maybe only in Cambodia or in the neighboring countries, with pretty low level of cover, $2,000-$3,000 per cases, per surgeries. So both of these insurances are pretty affordable. When we look at personal accident, for example, it's for a company of 5 employees or more, it's in the area of $10-$20, depending on the level of cover that you choose. The hospital and surgical, anywhere between $70 to $200. There's also various levels that you can select. And then, of course, you always have the international private medical insurances that offers much higher limits of coverage, up to $1 million or more.
So what I understand from the insurance market here, it's really a corporate buyer's market and not a consumer's market. Still, that the corporates make up something like 90% of the insurance premiums.
Correct. So
that's unusual, right? I mean, is it corporate? Why are corporates leading the way and consumers are not?
There's still a lot of individuals buying insurance, but those are more foreigners who are already aware of all these risks and this transfer mechanism.
They do it at home, right?
They used to do it at home. Correct.
Right, so they're doing it here. But why are consumers still reluctant to buy insurance? I mean, all those private cars out there, right? And we know that accidents are a big problem here, and driving regulations are not really the top of drivers' minds here. I mean, it's just deaths, are still the highest here, per capita for motor and car accidents. So why, with those statistics that accidents are definitely a major problem for requiring medical care or death, in effect, for life, which would be a valuable to have in case somebody dies and has to have a family be supported. Why aren't consumers picking this up? I mean, why aren't consumers saying, I need to insure my car, I need to insure my life?
I think there's a lot of there's not enough education that has been done.
And the insurance companies will argue. They'll say, I'm doing everything but trying to educate. I'm always trying to educate, but it seems to be a lack of clicking still. Even though the insurance market is growing here, it's really still pretty small.
We could see life insurance companies communicating pretty massively over the last few years, educating the market, and if you talk to Khmers, they will have actually a better understanding of the mechanism of a life insurance.
So it's starting to pick up
compared to general insurance, like a car insurance. They will understand better life insurance rather than a car insurance. So the general insurance company still has a lot of education to do, I think. This is something that we, as an intermediary, also want to do. We think it's important to let the people know how insurance works, what are all these transfer mechanisms that can be put in place, how it could benefit them. It's pretty important to educate them before they buy, so they can make an informed buy.
All right. So
I think it also has to do with the culture as well, the Buddhism culture, where you don't think too much about tomorrow. You pretty much live in the present time. So you don't necessarily.
I'm beginning to think that's a good idea.
So you don't necessarily think about what can happen to you tomorrow, and so you don't do all these risk plannings and.
Right. So you've arrived on the scene in May. You're now about 3 months in operation. What is Cambodian Investment Management Insurance Agents' plans for the market?
So we have great plans. I think there's a huge market which is untapped at the moment, which is the consumer Khmer market, basically. So we really want to go after that market. As I just mentioned, that will come with a lot of education from our side to generate knowledge first, and then interest about our services and products. Cambodia is one in the country in the world which has one of the highest percentage of the population using social medias. So we were going to go pretty heavy on social medias. We're currently putting in place a very strong digital marketing strategy. We're coming very soon with a great website, very informative, that we don't yet see in the intermediaries market. We're also going to come with exciting new tools that I'm maybe not going to mention here. I'm keeping it as a surprise.
Well, we'll have you back on for that. Okay, Daniel. Well, thank you for coming on, and I wish you luck, especially. But we wish you luck from Cambodia Business Week. I have to ask our last question, which is always, what do you love about Cambodia? What would you like to see improved? Besides more insurance, Brian.
So, what I like about Cambodia, the culture. This is one of the first thing that made me come from Europe to this part of the world. Very similar culture in all the Asian countries, which I really like. Very good food.
That's true.
The climate, of course.
It's always warm.
We
Warm and-
never have to wear gloves here, scarves.
It's always beautifully warm at 90 degrees every
Yes.
day. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it doesn't. That's the only difference. Yeah.
So the thing I'd like to see improved is the traffic. I used to live in Bangkok before. One of the reasons that made me move out of Bangkok to here was the traffic over there, which is terrible. And over the last 3 years that I'm here, I could see it really increasing here as well, and with very low. Very low knowledge of all the traffic rules. so
Isn't this all helpful to you? Like increase in cars and no compliance with traffic?
Of course.
Some people should need insurance, right?
Correct.
Well, thanks again, Daniel, for being on the
You're
show.
welcome.
And we'll have you back after about 6 months, and you could tell us about some of the new exciting stuff that Cambodian Investment Management Insurance Agent is doing.
Thank you,
Again,
Anthony.
thank you.
Thank you.